Hello. How are you today? Do you want to dive into a book that might just surprise you? Whether it becomes your next favorite or one you might skip, let's find out what readers are saying about it. Alina, who has 67 likes, says, "Thanks to NetGalley and Pan Macmillan Tor Bramble for this arc." 25 The Fall in the Kiss of Dusk by Carissa Broadbent is an immersive fantasy that pulls you into a world full of political intrigue, hidden magic, and deeply complex characters. The story is driven by the fascinating dynamics between Mish and Asar, both of whom are compelling and multifaceted protagonists. Mish is a character who, from the start, feels layered and real. Her struggles, motivations, and growth are engaging, and her connection with Asar only deepens the emotional impact of the story. Asar, in turn, is equally intriguing. With his own complex past and evolving relationship with Mish, their journey together unfolds at a measured pace, allowing their bond to develop naturally without feeling rushed. The world-building in this novel is rich and well-crafted, setting the stage for a plot full of twists and turns. There's a balance of action and quieter moments, and Broadbent skillfully keeps the tension high throughout. The romance is understated but powerful, supporting the larger narrative without overwhelming it. One of the highlights of the book is the emotional depth it offers. There are moments of vulnerability that really elevate the stakes and add an extra layer to the characters' relationships. That said, there are moments, particularly in the middle of the book, where the pacing dips slightly, which results in this not being a full 5-star read. Overall, The Fall in the Kiss of Dusk is an exceptional fantasy novel that blends action, emotional depth, and strong character development. If you enjoy fantasy with complex characters, slow-burn relationships, and a touch of suspense, this book is definitely worth your time. Emily, who has 78 likes, says, "A perfect, utterly devastating conclusion to Mish Asar's story. If I would tear the world apart to get to you was ever embodied in a story Jesus F. King Murphy, it would be this one. The character development in this book was unparalleled, and I am so thankful we got to see Mish embrace the darker parts of herself without sacrificing any of what makes her, her. These characters feel embedded in my DNA. I genuinely felt like I couldn't breathe with how hard I was rooting for their happiness." Carissa will continue to blow my mind with her writing ability for the rest of time. Give me the BLOODBORN duet now. Brooke Catherine, who has 14 likes, says, 4.5 This was my favorite book in the series so far. I love how each duet feels like its own story but carries on an overarching plot. And that plot is going somewhere. I started this book a little skeptical because TSATHOS wasn't my favorite, and the beginning of this book felt a little too similar. But the progression was incredible. The stakes got so high. The story was emotional and beautiful and wrapped up nicely. And the ending has me extremely excited for what's to come. I also loved Mish in this. She was the perfect balance between soft and powerful. She was hopeful and vengeful and confident. I've never read an FMC quite like her, and she holds a special place in my heart." Anila, who has 57 likes, says, "Rating 3.25 I really wanted to love this one, but it ended up being just meh for me. Was completely disconnected from the plot and the romance in the third book, and sadly that didn't change with the latest addition to the Nyaxia series. For some reason, I have never been invested in Mish and Asar. Whether as individual characters or as a couple, I find them to be rather boring. As for the plot, it felt less repetitive compared to the previous book, which I appreciated, but I just didn't care too much about what was happening. Maybe this is more of a me thing and I've simply lost interest in the series. If that's the case, it honestly sucks because I was so obsessed with the first duology. I won't name the characters to avoid spoilers. But I did really love all the cameos we got. It just made me so happy to see them all back. But although it was great to see them all again, I did feel some of the appearances were underwhelming and that they didn't really get to do much in this book. However, it was definitely more of a positive aspect of the book than a negative one. I also did really enjoy how the author wrapped up Mish and Asar's story. It was satisfying and a great setup to the next duology. All in all, I didn't hate this book, but I didn't love it either. I am hoping the next book will be the one to bring back the excitement I initially had for the series. Side note, I need to find out what was in that letter pre-read its time. Rowan, who has 169 likes, says, "This is the tale of how a fallen one ascends." When I finished this book, I was generally in awe. It changed my expectations and redefined them altogether. It turned my world upside down. 4 books into this series for y'all, and only now do I feel as though I've finally found what I was searching for since the start. Carissa had it in her jaw on the floor. Gagged. Chalked. Romanticy is fucking back, bitch. SC finished this sometime after 2 a.m. My mind was racing. I swear I got restless, so I knew that I had to write this review immediately. Not after I'd collected my thoughts. But now, while my heart is still thinking about the last sentences, I am writing this review at the crack of dawn. LMAO, I can't say with confidence that now I've become a fan of the entire Crowns of Nyaxia BC. That relationship is still complicated. But what I can say, without hesitation or doubt, is that I am deeply in love with The Fall and the Kiss of Dusk. This book gave me everything I've been longing for, and beyond. It reached inside all the empty space left by the earlier books and filled them with something whole. For context, my journey with this series has been horrible. I began reading the series last November since I had an ARC of The Songbird, The Heart of Stone. But I was only met with harsh disappointments. Both The Serpent, The Wings of Night, and The Ashes, The Star-Cursed King left me so much underwhelmed. I gave them 2 stars each. They felt uneven. I couldn't like the characters at all. Their relationship was difficult to grasp. Then came The Songbird, which literally took me with it to hell from how bad it was. I rated it a 1 star. And when I finished it, I at the time was completely certain that I would not continue. By the end of book 3, I was ready to walk away. The story and I simply were not meant to connect, no matter how much I tried. But I received yet another ARC from this series and got this book 4 months ago. Against my better judgment and maybe out of obligation to see what happened with that cliffhanger left in Songbird, I went back in, and what a wise decision that was. I did not expect to enjoy it, and I certainly did not expect it to move me in the way it did. But from literally the first chapter, I felt the shift in tone, in depth, in clarity. I still stand by the opinions I have about the previous books. My criticism of them remains valid to me. But this book has done something I never thought possible. It opened the door for a possibility that I might one day reconsider rereading the earlier books with new hope. Not because they've magical changed, but because I have. When I reviewed The Songbird, I showed my frustration quite plainly. I felt no connection to Mish or Asar. I struggled to care about them. Their story felt very opaque and distant. I can even acknowledge Aurea and Rhine, while not entirely successful in my eyes either, they at least carried me through their duet. But with Mish and Asar, I felt so left behind. And yet, in here everything changed. From the very first chapter, I was so shockingly captivated. I was curious and very invested. Every decision they made, every internal battle they fought, came down with a sincerity that I did not felt from them before. It was generally so shocking to me. I mean, can you blame me given how I felt about their first book? Their thoughts became fully realized. Their beliefs became blurry and textured. Their love was laced with history and pain and quiet hope. They were no longer difficult to reach, they were in my bones, so fucking close to me all of the sudden. Maybe my struggle to connect with their story in Songbird was affected by my disappointment in the first duology. Maybe I wasn't yet ready to understand who they were, or maybe they, too, were not ready to reveal themselves until now. Whatever the reason, the Fallen presented them in a way that was transformative. Every step of their journey in this book was so deliberate, so emotionally transparent. I was hanging on every word. Their journey is about their truth, about choosing to grow, about rediscovering belief in the worth of their own lives. That, to me, is the most beautiful part of their love. They were two people who believed themselves destined to be the sacrifice, learning, slowly and painfully, to choose life, for one another, and for themselves. Mish and Asar are now settling down between my fav heroes and heroines ever. Their strength, their fragility, their capacity for change, all of it was breathtaking. I am so fucking grateful to have witnessed their journey. About the romance, I'll just start with an apology in my Songbird review. I hated the romance almost entirely. I called it underdeveloped, hollow, even non-existent. I went as far as to say that Asar did not feel like a love interest in any meaningful sense. I take it all back. Every single word BC in this book. This man is everything. He's going to war against the gods, conquering the underworld, breaking himself apart, all for her. I don't know what was wrong with me before. Was I blind, delusional, possessed, on drugs? What I do know is that now I am obsessed with every word he says and every choice he makes. Asar is, without exaggeration, one of the best MMCs I've seen in romantasy. His stillness, his internal war, made me fall in love with him so hard. There is so much weight to the way he loves Mish. It is reverent, unflinching, and sacred in the truest sense of the word. He does not simply love her, he believes in her like a religion. In her strength, in her vision, in her unshakable hope. She is his salvation, his weakness. She is his equal, his compass, his queen, his redemption, his God, his fucking everything. He's very intense, devoted, noble, and achingly, pathetically in love. At the start, when he couldn't touch Mish like he used to, the panic in him, it was so endearing. His inner monologues and how he thinks of her, his reverence for her. I was just sitting there, staring at the pages, gagged. And Mish, my strong, resilient, radiant Mish, I owe you an apology too. You are everything. Your strength, your hope, your unyielding light. Even in the darkest moments I was moved. Truly, you inspired me. The way you always found a way forward. Using your mind and heart. I get it now. I get why he sees you as a goddess. Because you are one he will worship at your altar every day. What a luminous, astonishing character she becomes in this book. Her emotional resilience deserves its own space. There is something indescribably moving about a heroine who continues to choose hope even when she has every reason to give in to despair. Mish is full of fear and doubt, but she never lets it dictate who she becomes. The way her intelligence shines. She is so clever. She thinks through every move with clarity and intuition. She is not dependent on Asar to rescue her. There is a grace to her decisions. She is, quite literally, the embodiment of quiet power. She was never a damsel in distress throughout the whole book. When Asar calls her a goddess, he is not speaking metaphorically. He sees her, all of her flaws, her fears, her defiant tenderness. He kneels before her out of worship and recognition of what she really is. The romance between them is not overly dramatized, and I loved that. It is quiet and persistent and extraordinarily intimate. Their love is woven through every line, every shared memory, every impossible choice. A love story, two souls who have walked through the underworld, faced fire, bled in silence, fought gods, and still choose to return to each other broken or rebuilt. They are something unforgettable. At the start of the series, especially the first duet, I found the writing odd. In my review of The Serpent and the Wings of Night, I word for word called the writing to be very similar to SJM's, and since I don't like her writing, I couldn't like Carissa's as well because to me it felt really similar. That criticism was not lightly made and I still stand by it. I trust my past self and the context she was reading in. But after this book I can say with complete honesty that the writing has undergone a transformation. So striking it almost feels like the work of a different author. The prose here was exquisite, jaw-dropping. I did not see that coming. At all. There is a new precision and maturity in the way Carissa shaped each sentence. It elevated every scene and every emotion. The writing is lush without being too indulgent, if I am making sense. It is very emotionally charged. I felt every sentence so deeply. Each paragraph felt as if it had been written with so much care. There was no excess, no lazy metaphor or decorative flourish. The imagery was grounded and intentional. I was rereading certain lines not because I missed their meaning, but because the beauty of their construction stunned me, more than anything. The writing in this book mirrors the growth of the story itself. As the characters deepen, so too does the narrative voice. There is greater control here, a more nuanced sense of timing, of when to linger and when to let go. The interludes, the shifts in perspective, the careful pacing, just perfect. It's rare that a book's writing style evolves so dramatically within the same series. And rarer still that it does so with such confidence. It feels like Carissa stepped fully into her voice with this book. She trusted her vision, and what a vision that was. Dreamy sigh. The plot begins where the songbird left off. And yet it does not merely continue the narrative, it reshapes it. What starts as an uncertain descent in the songbird evolves into something much bigger. The structure here is more focused. It is purposeful. Every challenge, every setting, builds towards something grander than simple progression. The underworld setting is one of the book's greatest points. Its haunting, brutal, and oddly beautiful realm that draws on familiar mythological imagery. It's such a fun journey, and I love anything inspired by Dante's Inferno. In the previous book, I struggled with the plot's lack of coherence. I was distanced, unable to latch onto a thread that felt steady. It was so chaotic. But this book is an entirely different experience. I was fully engaged. I was entranced. The journey was incredibly written. I felt immersed in the searching, the puzzles, the divine confrontations, and the heartbreak that shadowed every step of their way. The plot is beautifully intertwined with the characters. Every forward step they took in the underworld changed who they were becoming, or what they were reclaiming, even if you remove the romance and the amazing main characters. The plot of this book would stand strong on its own. The pacing is near perfect. The previous duet definitely dragged, but I did not feel any rush or slowness in here. I also want to take a moment to appreciate just how unique the fantasy world built in the Crowns of Nyaxia truly is. I don't think I've read anything quite like it before. The structure, the world building, and even the concept of things.it all feel incredibly fresh and original. It's something I hadn't fully acknowledged at first, probably because I didn't enjoy any of the previous ones, but after being very immersed in this book, it made me realize just how beautifully crafted and imaginative this universe is. It's not just this particular book, it's the entire Crowns of Nyaxia world that stands out for its world building. This book shows, in my opinion, what the romantasy genre can be at its finest, because in this book action and intimacy, mythology and humanity, war and wonder, all coexisted in harmony. There is no singular aspect that overshadows the others. We are given a story where romance and world-building, inner conflict and outer quest, all move together as one breathtaking, unified force. I am seriously struggling to express, with any measure of composure, just how deeply this book affected me. I adored every syllable, every chapter, every interlude. It all was masterfully timed and achingly beautiful. There wasn't a single moment that felt hollow or a line that failed to carry a weight with it. Start to finish, I was utterly consumed. I'll be turning to slaying the vampire conqueror, because I am so intrigued by Selena. Her small presence had me so hooked to know who she is and what her backstory is about. Her book is labeled as 2.5, so we're technically supposed to read it after the Ashes, but I skipped it. I wish I didn't, because when Vale and Lilith showed up here I was so happy that I already read their backstory in 6 Scorched Roses. Now, without spoilers, I want to briefly mention that a certain character, you know who it is, had the most perfect resolution ever. One of the best highlights in this book. I wouldn't have his storyline being told any differently. She gave it what it deserves. Even now I am still astounded by just how much I loved this book, how unexpected that love was. After 3 books of disappointment, I believed that this series wasn't meant for me. And yet here I am, planning to continue. Carissa confirmed that the draft of Nyaxia 5 is complete and longer than The Ashes, the Star-Cursed King. That alone speaks volumes. There is still so much left to explore. And I have no doubt the new journey with the youngest House of Blood Prince will be epic, whatever comes next. IMSAT arc provided by the publisher Tor Publishing Group. Crowns of Nyaxia series reviews The Serpent, the Wings of Night, 25 stars. 6 Scorched Roses novella, 35 stars. The Ashes, the Star-Cursed King, 25 stars. Slaying the Vampire Conqueror, TBR. The Songbird, the Heart of Stone, 15 stars. The Fallen, the Kiss of Dusk, 55 stars. The Lion, the Deathless Dark, TBR.